Why can't we be in peace every moment of our time-based world? Well, the body is at peace. The body is trying every moment of every day to find its peaceful, perfect living, contentedly life. But the mind is never at peace. That's why it's the mind that dies first before the body. And the mind, for some, can die long before the body is due to die. Many years before the body is due to die. This mind of I, this identity mind. The identity mind is the reason that mind cannot live balanced with the body in peace. Because the identity mind tells stories. The identity mind uses thoughts, words, and stories. Oh yes, you can say, well, without the stories, without the words, without the thoughts, we will die. No, that's not true. In deep sleep, do you die? You can sleep for, some people love their sleep so much they can sleep 17 hours of the day. And 5 hours, or whatever it is that remains, 7 hours remains, where they have to put up with the stories and the words and the thoughts and the bullshit. And again, you say, oh, wow, how boring to sleep 17 hours of the day. But it's not about sleeping eyes closed 17 hours of the day. It's about sleeping 17 hours of the day, 7 with eyes closed, snoring, and 10 awake. Many are able to remove the stories, the identities, and not live in this world of beauty without giving names to the shimmering lake, without giving names to the blue sky, without giving names to the birds' wings flying so elegantly. All these are 3 things are happening. And that one that is awake is not fixating on one of the 3 things. All these things are happening as one thing, with everything else that's happening as one thing. There is no story. The story takes you further away from that peaceful body, that peaceful life, that peaceful situation. But the mind is arrogant. The mind is determined. The mind is so needing its attention. And we think our body is the mind. We think this body is a story. And of course we make it into a story. Yeah, look at the arm and the hands and the fingers. Yeah, oh, look at that. That's a wonderful piece of engineering. Yeah, what about this bit? No one's looking at the shoulder. Oh yeah, I see it now. You have to make it up. You have to break it down into chapters, into scenes, into characters, into scenarios. The greatest story is God for the religious. The greatest story is the Big Bang for science. And for the poor beggar, the greatest story is that big fish he caught one day. We don't see life as one whole complete story. We have to break it down, segment it into pieces of the cake, so that we don't taste the whole cake every day. We just taste little bits. Icing today, sponge tomorrow. Yeah. Chocolate next day. Texture next day. Color next day. The mind creates a fantasy world about what is actually here. You see what is actually here without the names, the identities, the thoughts, and the stories. What you see is what they call God in everything. We call it consciousness. Science calls it atoms and molecules and light and energies and whatever. The spiritualists call it spirituality. The atheists call it nonsense. The mayas call it maya, illusion. All stories from the same story. All gods from the same God. All humans from the same being. All living things from the same life. Only consciousness exists. Does consciousness have a beginning and end? Well, let's remove one of the most astounding stories and then look at consciousness. The Big Bang. What an absolute piece of nonsense. Yeah, this sudden bang and everything appeared. It's the inability from science to accept that it is so colossal, the universes, the galaxies, the cosmos, it's so colossal that no human mind in whatever intelligence it develops will ever understand that this has always been here. We need to have cause, reason, we need to have beginning, we need to have possible end, we need to have all these things, but everything is taking place without the story, without the human. We're something special. We know we're something special if you truly know yourself. As a human, you may feel an insignificant, just grain of sand in this colossal, pathetic play, pantomime that we created. Not God. We created this pantomime. We created words. We created thoughts. We created time. We created all these things from names and words and thoughts and sounds. Our emotional body is here to experience, to taste, but our emotional body has now turned into a semi-god. We can build anything we like. We can do anything we like. We can knock down the trees. This planet is ours, and we'll have more planets. Let's go into the universe and have hundreds of planets. Well, I would say to scientists, watch out for that next Big Bang. It might get you up the ass. This itself is a story. About the story. About the story. About the story. About the story. We have a pulse now. You see it? Boom. 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 If the Big Bang is true, it happened with one pulse. Boom. Where is the secondary pulse? Where is that? Boom. 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 Words will kill this human race. Not people, not bodies. Words will destroy this mind. The beings will not be destroyed. The human element will be destroyed. So there's not blood and guts and death. That's not what the speaker's saying. The story will die. Each one individual story dies on the moment the body dies. For some, like the speaker, like Eckhart Tolle, the story died through an awakening, through a shock, through a God that said, enough of this story. Who the hell do you think you are? Trying to replicate, trying to prove, trying to justify, trying to improve that what is absolutely pristine and untouchable. Who the hell are you, Mr. Graham Fife, Popsy guy? Don't you come and tell me, says this conscious God, how this should be lived. who I am. How dare you even look for me? Now I leave you. Enjoy. Enjoy. I leave you at peace. I've taken away your story. I've taken away your name, your identity. Others will continue to give it to you, but they won't touch you because you're veiled, you're masked. You're not a story. You're not a thought. You're not a word. You're not a name. You're not an identity. You're not even I. And when God hits you, like the Big Bang, God not being a religious God, God not being a spiritual God, God not even being the name God, God being that force where all this sits within, not created by, always here, always here. You're always here, all planets always here, space always here, science thinks it had a beginning. That's just another little storyteller with his book. We don't know what the hell's going on here. We have to make something up, otherwise they'll get bored and they'll move away. They might move away to another planet. And how the hell are we going to get our ideas and concepts of finding what's in space if they all move away? Who's going to make the robot? Who's going to make the spaceships? Who's going to make the digital equipment? Who's going to feed us our food? Who's going to not provide us with that determination? The mind proves everybody wrong every day and every moment. Centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. We think this started within the dinosaurs, but it was before that, before that, before that, before that, before that. Trillions and trillions and trillions of years on in our time-based world. We've always been here, looking for the same thing, ourself. Yet we cannot look in the mirror and say, got it, got you. Always looking for you. Where the hell you been for centuries? Remove this story. But you cannot remove the story. God has to remove it for you, or consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. I'm using a name. But something is storyless, far beyond stories, far beyond the world's peace, love, trust, kindness, all that compassion and stuff that we use, that we need in our human life, but we are not that. God says, I am that. I am. Which way is I am pointing? It's not pointing either way. It's not pointing out or in. I am is out, I am is in, but that remains centered. Is that what it is?